Hey, Thomas from Field Tennis. Today we're going to talk about balance and stability. I want to thank Tina for helping me out. Today we're playing in a very nice club, Benc Sport, in Ljubljana, Slovenia. So if we ever travel to Ljubljana, Slovenia, this is the place to go. So, shall we hit some balls?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Let's go.
When players come to see me and they want to correct their strokes, especially adults, they would typically say, I have a problem on the forehand, can you take a look? I'm not sure what's wrong. And what they don't know and they don't expect is that in 90% of the cases I'm going to correct their balance first. So it is that important in my view, and today I will try to explain to you why balance or stability, we're going to also use the word being very stable, is so important for being able to play well. But before we talk about balance, let me try to explain to you why do we need it and what is the actual original problem that we have in tennis or any other sport with a ball. And that problem is controlling the ball. So I'm going to hit some balls, and when I'm hitting the ball, I am losing control of the ball. So sometimes I might feel I have good control of the ball, then sometimes losing control of the ball. So I have an idea where I want to hit the ball, and then it just goes wide or in the net and so on. So our goal is to hit the ball in the court, and later on when you play points, you have a bit smaller targets, you want to move your opponent around. So you are trying to control the ball, which means it needs to pass over the net, must not cross the baseline, must not cross the sideline, must land inside the court. And you are trying to do that while moving around and receiving all sorts of different incoming balls. So that makes tennis one of the most difficult sports there are. So we are all the time dealing at first with ball control. We're trying to control the ball. And what players instinctively do, if they're not educated or trained, is that because they feel the racket is going through space at pretty good pace and it's changing angles and so on, and this quick change of the racket angle makes the ball spray along, so one goes there, one goes there, one goes up. So the instinctive response of the player is to try and stiffen their wrist so that the racket doesn't flail around so much. So they get very stiff in their wrist and they move to the ball and they try to control the ball mostly with these muscles. So they do it with a very stiff wrist, control the racket head so that the racket doesn't go this way or that way. So again, that is the very instinctive way of trying to solve this problem of ball control, because if you can't control the ball, it means you're not controlling the racket. So your racket is opening, closing too much, going like this. So because you hold it in your hand and you feel the wrist here, the hand, you are trying to stabilize the racket here. And in this process, as you're instinctively trying to stabilize the racket, you forget about your body. So you end up in all sorts of different uncomfortable positions. You end up in uncomfortable positions like this, trying to stabilize the racket, not realizing what I'll try to explain today is that your loss of balance is actually contributing to the loss of control of the racket face and loss of control of the ball. What a more advanced and skilled player knows and feels already is that they're going to have really good racket control and therefore ball control if they control their body well. So the message I want to give you in this video is that you can control the ball well if you control your body. Body in movement. We are in many different positions in tennis, and when we control our body well on the court, we are going to control the racket face well on the court and therefore the ball. So I'm going to hit a few balls now again, and I'm going to hit them the way I hit them, or a more skilled player hits them, and you can observe my stability and balance, and I'll try and give you a comparison with the previous shots where I intentionally didn't pay attention to balance, and you're going to see the difference. So as you can see, I try to position really well to the ball, and as I'm hitting the ball, of course the movement is dynamic. It doesn't mean that I'm static. It's a dynamic movement, but I am in control of my body. So balance does not mean that we have a static balance like this. This is a static balance. In tennis we have a lot of dynamic balance, which means we are moving while hitting, but we are controlling our body. So when you're able to control your body in space despite movement, then you will automatically control the racket face and therefore the ball. So what are the disadvantages of not being stable? What problems does instability or loss of balance cause? So the first analogy I can give you is that if you imagine you have a rifle and you're shooting into a target, and you're standing on a boat in the sea, and the boat is rocking on the waves, and you're trying to hit the target, it's not the rifle's fault that you're missing the target. It's because you have an unstable base that keeps rocking you. So similarly, when you're hitting a forehand and you're unstable at the moment of hitting, it's not your forehand's fault that you missed. Actually, your forehand is trying the best it can to solve the problem that you created by slight loss of balance, either falling off like this or in some other way. So try to keep that analogy in mind first. The second problem, when you don't have good balance, and I will demonstrate on the forehand, but it applies to the backhand too, is that when you're off balance, you cannot rotate well. So I'll first do one good shot. So if I'm well balanced, I can use this leg. So now I'm playing neutral stance in this case. So I use this leg as my axis. I can rotate around it. My hips are coming through, and I provide power and stability to the shots. The shot is very stable, very consistent, because I'm very stable and consistent, and I'm giving the ball power and stability by moving my body mass while I'm hitting the ball. If I am off balance, so let's say I stay like this and I am leaning out now, reaching. So let's try and demonstrate one. So I'm kind of leaning out. My brain is gonna automatically stop me from rotating, because if I'm falling off a little bit and I would attempt to rotate now, I would fall on my back. We feel that, subconsciously we feel that. So when you get out of balance, the only way to hit the ball is not to rotate so that you don't fall, so you end up hitting with the arm. So again, that doesn't contribute to a consistent and stable stroke, because your body is not in sync, the fundamentals are not working, you're just saving the situation. When you're stable and balanced and you're hitting the ball, that means there is no tension, no real tension in the body, because you feel in control. So I'll show you. Because I feel very stable, it's very comfortable to move my body, and I'm getting out effortless power. When we are not stable, when we're slightly falling off, that doesn't mean you're going to fall on the ground. It just means you're temporarily losing balance. You're going like this. Now your brain has to react very quickly with triggering a certain movement to catch you before it's too late. And when it triggers that movement, there will be quick tension in the body. In fact, the tension in the body happens as soon as you go off balance like this. If I stand like this, I'm now off balance, and my muscles are struggling to keep me balanced. Or even more simple way, if I stand like this, I'm balanced. If I lean forward like this, I can kind of maintain my balance, but my legs are completely tight. Everything is very tight because these muscles are now engaging to keep me balanced. So this tightness that will start in the legs is going to creep up through the whole body, and when you're coming to the shot off balance, you're already tight. So usually looks something like this. You're off balance, now you're tight, and then you can see this very quick movement of the leg because the player has to catch themselves before they fall down. Another disadvantage when you're losing balance slightly is that you panic a little bit. You become anxious because you detect either consciously or subconsciously that you're losing balance, and that kind of triggers a very quick response to catch you, and that's a little moment of panic, making sure that you catch yourself, and that happens exactly when you're hitting the ball. So that's why you're also losing control of the ball, because at the moment of hitting the ball, there is a moment of panic, your racket rushes, and you're losing control of the ball. When you move on the court and you are stable, you will feel calm, because stability kind of gives the calmness of the mind. There is no trigger of saving you from falling, there is no alarm, there's no emergency. So your positioning, you feel very stable, very controlled, and therefore when you're making contact with the ball, you are calm, and of course that will contribute to better control of the ball. So before we go on to looking at how can we improve the balance, what are the exercises and so on, I think it's very good to take a look at the causes. Why aren't you stable? Why aren't you balanced? So I'll try and list a few reasons that I think are the main reasons why players are not stable. The first one is you play points too early, when you're not ready, when you have not been taught or you weren't aware of the importance of balance. And because in points you're going to be run around left, right, or especially doubles where it's even less time. So you're just running to the ball, kind of hacking at it, reaching. It's always a kind of rush, no real time left to hit the ball, and that becomes your habit. So I'll try and demonstrate a few. So Tina's going to hit a few volleys. So this is how a typical point in doubles can look like. You're just scrambling around, the net player is defending the net, and you feel you don't have time to position, and you're doing that a lot, and that becomes your habit. When the concept or the idea of being stable becomes part of you, you obviously don't think about it when you move, it's subconscious, but you always try to position stable if it's possible. So Tina is going to give me balls left, right again. I will just play them how I play them, and you try to see the difference. So you can see when on a short ball, when you're used to balance, you're trying to stabilize yourself, you're trying to calm yourself down, because it's natural to you know that by controlling my body, I'm going to control the stroke. But before you feel that, you don't feel this connection, so your only concern is to get to the ball. You give me one short ball. So you run to the ball and you're just hitting the ball and you don't really pay attention to your feet or slowing down or stabilizing. And that's actually the main reason why I missed. We can talk also about two reasons that are just kind of physical, technical. The first one is that your feet are too close together when you're making a shot. So that gives you kind of a very narrow base. And as you're hitting the shot, it's very difficult to stabilize because you have a swing, you have rotations and so on, and all these movements try to throw you off. And because you end up before the stroke with the feet too close, then you don't have good base and you're throwing yourself off balance. So, especially in open stance positions, it's very important that you're very wide. A simple guideline for an adult person is that you can put one racket between your feet when you position for open stance. I know it feels very, very wide to players at first. Also in juniors, when we teach them, it feels to them very wide. But observe for yourself, professionals if you want, how they position. So again, the first thing is you don't pay attention to being very stable. And one of the reasons when it comes to beginners is that they actually cannot many times end up in a stable position because they misjudge the ball. So, Tina, you give me one ball there. So they run to the ball, then they realize that they are too close and now they can't make a good step. So, like, if you have a good ball judgment, you step well enough, you stay well enough from the ball, and now I can make a big step towards the ball. So when I'm making a shot or open stance, I feel very stable. But the beginner is going to misjudge the ball, they're going to overrun, and now they can't make a big step. So there is no quick solution for that. The player needs to learn to judge the ball. They need to play tennis 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. Before they can judge the ball, they stop overrunning it and so on. And then we can encourage them to try and keep a more wide position when they get to the ball. So it's important not to trouble a beginner too much with a wide position because they can't achieve it if they already misjudge the ball. And we can't correct poor ball judgment in one lesson. It takes time. The second, more technical, physical reason why players are not stable is because they play too upright. So they're playing very upright, and you can get away with playing very upright when you get a short ball and you have to go towards it, because then you're going to lean slightly forward. So even if I'm like this and I get a short ball, now my body is in the right position. So even here, if I'm kind of playing like this, if I step in, I have good weight transfer, my body is in a fine position. So even if I'm like this, I can kind of get away with it. But when you play open stance and you end up into upright position, then when you do the swing and your stability, your axis is your right leg, then Mr. Isaac Newton says that when you swing this forward, this one wants to go backward. So that's what troubles players a lot. They come to the ball like this, and then they fall off because there's a backward force created when you swing forward. It puts your body back, now gravity is pulling you back, and now you struggle. So this can, of course, apply to two-handed backhands, one-handed backhands, and so on. So generally the players are too upright, and sometimes they get away with it on a short ball, but on other balls or higher balls, the moment they kind of lean backwards, now they're off balance. They're hitting the ball and they are losing control of the ball. So, of course, the correction is to be in athletic position, that your back is at some angle and not like this upright. You're in this position. So again, very important when you're hitting an open stance. because when you're leaning forward, you're using your body weight, like upper body, chest weight, shoulders, to counter the force that happens when it wants to pull you back, right? So if I go to open stance and I have a more forward posture, then you see it doesn't throw me off in any way. So again, the general principle for stability is to have a wide base, athletic position, slightly forward posture, and you try to maintain this posture. Players also lose this position very quickly when they start to move backward, because they move backward like this and they're already leaning backward. So we don't do that in any sport. If I play basketball, I can move backward. If I'm covering Kobe Bryant who's dribbling me, I'm going like this, I'm not going back like this. If I play football, soccer, I'm always maintaining this position even if I'm moving backward. So in all sports, that is the position. So in tennis, if I have to move backward, I move backward with a forward posture. I can move backward and still hit a good ball if I have forward posture. So important to remember. So here's another reason why you're off balance. You might not like to hear it, but I have to say it. It's because you're lazy. Or we can say you would like to conserve energy. So I was thinking about this a lot as I worked with players, younger and older. So there are some very motivated people that want to learn tennis, and you can't really call them lazy, but they don't move well. So as I interact with them and I think a lot, it's just they don't feel the benefit of being in balance. They don't feel it yet. So instinctively they are not looking for a very stable position, because it takes more work to get in a stable position than just to reach for the ball. So let me show you, Jutina, you give me. So let's say if I have in my mind just the goal to reach the ball, and this is oftentimes in players' minds, they think, I need to reach the ball. That is their instinct. So they're here, the ball goes, and you say, I need to reach the ball. So this is reaching. I reached the ball, and then you think, okay, I got it, right? That was the goal. I am here, the ball is going, I need to reach it. So I reached it. And you have to replace this. It's a normal instinct. I need to reach the ball. But when a coach is looking at your some player, they'll say, dude, you're not moving well. That's no footwork, right? So then you don't understand what is the purpose of footwork when you don't feel how much better you can hit the shot when you're stable. So if for this same ball, this is reaching, you can observe how much I move my feet to reach the ball. So okay, I reach this one, I will reach. I know my reach, I'll get to the ball. So you see how much I move. Now if I want to position, you can see it takes more effort. It takes quicker movement and it takes more effort, right? So I have to go quickly, stabilize and so on. So when the player doesn't feel that they're hitting better shot balanced, then they see no sense in expending so much effort to get to the ball. So we are trying to help them with various exercises, and hopefully with these explanations that you think about this a little bit, that you start to feel that you hit a much better shot. I will hit a much better shot if I am well positioned to the ball. I am very stable when I'm hitting the ball, and that's no guarantee. This is tennis, so we can still miss the ball, but it's much higher probability to hit the ball than reaching or stretching for the ball. So when the player feels the benefit of being very stable and they like tennis more or winning points more than being rested, then they're gonna do it. If your priority is to be rested while playing tennis, then you won't do it. So again, if I need to get to this ball, I had to move these steps. If I just want to reach the ball, I can do one. So again, the player must feel the difference in the stroke. They must be willing to expend energy for the quality of the stroke. because for the quality of the stroke, you pay with the effort with your legs. There's another reason why you might not be stable or balanced when you're playing tennis, and I have to mention it, and that is poor leg strength. Your legs are weak. When your leg is weak, it cannot at the same time stop you, load and push off. So let me show you here with the open stance forehand. So if I do the open stance forehand right, then when I get to the ball, I am first stopping myself from this side momentum. I'm going to the side, little slip, so I have to stop myself, then the leg has to load and it has to push off. So all this happens in a very short time. So the leg needs to be strong enough to stop me and at the same time act like a spring. So when I move to the ball, and then I use the leg to push up and twist my pelvis and so on. And so you need some leg strength. When your legs are weak and you get into this position, your leg will not be able to load and act as a spring, and you're just going to either just stand very stiff on this leg, so you will get no power on the leg, you're just going to block it like this, or you're going to fall over a little bit. So yeah, maybe just a bit. So you get to the ball, then you're going to fall over because your leg can't take it. So maybe try another one. Let's say I bend the leg a bit and then your leg is not strong enough. Similar thing can happen when you get a short ball. When your leg is weak, you get to the short ball, then it just stays like this and you're falling over. So your leg is not strong enough to act like a absorber, stop you and push off. So if I get another shot, I get too short. If I do it right, that's a lot of work. So when your legs are weak, you can't do it and you're gonna fall over and you're gonna try and catch your balance. So important to do some programs to check with yourself or with a fitness coach, what's your leg strength, can you do it, what are the exercises. You can find many online. I'll try and give you one link in the description where you can find some good exercises for leg strength.